Yafo Fula, aka Yaki Kadafi, was reportedly one of the only willing witnesses who saw Tupac shooter. Do you think that his death was in any way connected to what he witnessed? And if you could share a little bit more about what you know about what really actually happened uh, to Yafeo.
Good question. First of all, Yafeo wasn't the only witness. All right? It, there was others who saw who shot Tupac. They didn't see his face. They didn't see his face, but they seen the arm. So Yafeo wasn't the only witness. And no, I don't believe that Yafeo's death is related to what happened in Vegas. The only way that that could be possible is that there's a mass conspiracy to link Yafeo's death to what happened with Tupac. I'm not that smart enough or that deep enough to even know how that can play out. So, no, I do not believe his death was related to what happened in Vegas. On the other hand, Yafeo died, he got killed November 10th, 1996. He got killed almost a month. He got killed over September. He got killed almost a little over 2 months after Tupac died, right? When Yafeo got killed, I was the first one to get the phone call. I was the one who answered the call from a girl in Jersey telling me that Yafeo just got shot in the face or got shot in the head, right? I was the one who told Afeni, my aunt, and everybody else in the house, the outlaws, everybody in the house, that Yafeo had just got shot. He just got shot. I told everybody that. Now, mind you, this is less than 2 months or a little more than 2 months after Tupac got killed. Our emotional state was in shambles. We were afraid. We were beaten. We were still in shock. And we were traumatized, every one of us, right? Then we get this news that Yafeo got killed. It was so traumatic for us because when I got the news, the phone call, simultaneously, we was planning a memorial for Tupac the next day. The next day, we was gonna have a memorial for Tupac in Atlanta. So we're planning his memorial, and I get the phone call that Yafeo just got killed or got shot. He hadn't been dead yet.
So you guys were in Atlanta when you got that information?
We was in Atlanta. He was in New Jersey with a friend of his who happens to be Napoleon's cousin, Mutar's cousin. Mutar was a member of the Outlaws. And he was someone that was very, very close to us, right? At the time. He's still close to us, but not. Anyway, he was related to the person who shot Yafeo, right? Mutar was with us when I got the phone call. He was in the house with us. So he had nothing to do with what took place in Jersey. He was just as traumatized, just as shocked, just as painful. It was just as, Pac's murder was just as painful to him as it was to every one of us, right? So we did the memorial the next day. Somehow we was able to gather enough strength as a family to go ahead and do the memorial that we had set up for Pac the next day. There was an outpouring of love and support from politicians and activists and people of that nature, other Panthers, old head Panthers that Faney was close to. There was an outpouring of love and support from them because they knew that we were mentally, emotionally, physically drained, right? And that we were grieving deeply. So we went out to the funeral for Yafo. Yafao's mother was a dear friend of Afeni's, right? Her name is Yasmin Fuller.
Shout out to Yasmin.
Shout out to Yasmin, right? Shout out to you, Yasmin. I love you still. But and Yasmin Fuller was a very close relative. She wasn't a blood relative to us, but she was like an aunt to us, to my brothers and sisters. And she was very close to Afeni, and she was close to my mother. Wherever you see my mother and Afeni, you will see Yasmin. This relationship goes back to 1973 between my mother, Afeni, and Yasmin. Yafo grew up around us as a cousin. He was Tupac's god brother. He was Sechua's god brother. Shout out to my cousin Sechua. He was their god brother. So he grew up around us very closely, right? So when we get to New Jersey for the funeral, Muta comes with us. And he's in a deep dilemma because his cousin just killed his best friend. Yafo was Muta's best friend. Yafo was the person who introduced Muta to Tupac. Muta came from New Jersey to Atlanta and stayed in Tupac's house and was raised and groomed by his family, Tupac's family. Tupac adopted Muta, pretty much. He adopted him, right? And we all loved Muta as one of our own. This is a true story. So when we all go out to New Jersey and see Yafo in the coffin, it hurts us. But it don't hurt none of us more than it hurts his mother, right? Yasmin. My parents and Afeni were trying their best to be as supportive as possible to Yasmin and her family at the time. Somehow, something occurred while we was in Jersey that created a conflict. The conflict happened with Yasmin and Muta. Yasmin knew that Muta had nothing to do with her son's murder. And she, by the way, I have to mention, she was very understanding of Muta's dilemma. This is how I remember it, this story. She was very understanding of Muta's dilemma that his cousin killed her son. But somehow a conflict arose, right? And it became difficult for Yasmin, and it became difficult for Muta. The conflict is still present to this day. Me, personally, lost a lot from that conflict as far as my relationships with Yasmin and others, right? It's an experience that what happened to Yafo and what happened in New Jersey at his funeral is an experience that still serves as a conflict for most of us, right? A lot of us don't like to talk about it because it's very, very complicated and difficult to talk about. I wanted to talk about it because I wanted to shed a little light on the pain that we experienced since Yafo's murder and Tupac's murder as a family. We experienced a lot of pain, man, and a lot of trauma. A lot of us are dealing with this trauma without therapy. You know, Black people have a hard time with therapy for dealing with trauma, pain, you know, depression, anxiety, mental illness. We have a hard time turning to therapy to help us cope with these emotions and this pain. And not putting anybody on blast, those Black people include members in my own circle. And it's not something that they do normally, you know, it's just something that most or some Black people are not aware of as an option. I'm talking about therapy. That's some of us as Black people are not aware of being available to us to help us cope with whatever we're going through. That includes my own circle. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I'm overstepping my bounds on talking about this publicly, but the reason why I decided to talk about it publicly, because as I said, it still is very painful for me to even think about how that occurred and what came out of it. So yeah, Yafo murder is totally disconnected as far as I'm concerned with what took place in Vegas.